All right, and welcome back to a second edition of a special edition with me, your co-host Jack of HW Hockey, one-on-one segment. We did one of these. Now we're are doing our second one here, and this is with Flyers Purgatory. If you guys follow the show, you know that not only does this gentleman here have some comments, he has some conflicting comments, and they are passionate comments. And he was nice enough to join me on the show here to go over some of our uh, different views, I guess you could say, on the team. And I guess with that, I'll just hand it over to you, Pergs.
Yeah.
Give it to us. Your whole thoughts on where the Flyers are today, the front office, everything. Let us have it.
All right. So I don't like to think of it as negative. I'm not negative all the time. I don't walk around. I don't like have a picture of Danny in my room and just yell at him every morning. It's not exactly what I do. Well, it's more like a realistic view because I listen to I listen to more like national podcasts, stuff like that, and everything. And the national view of the Flyers organization is not what the internal view is around here, and that can be frustrating when you hear stuff and then you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. Like they've been pretty much the same type of team my entire life. That in the late, I'm 37. The Flyers have been 45 plus wins 7 times in my 37 years of life. Right before that, 15 years before that, they were 45 wins 11 times in the previous 15 years. So they were like a keystone franchise. I just don't know if they are that anymore. And it can be frustrating when we're talked of like we are like an original six team or we are like a constant contender. And it's like, I mean, you hear it all the time. People talk about like that dog team or that team's trash or this or whatever. And it's like, well, hey, buddy, like we haven't had a home playoff game since 2018. Like we like the you look at the where we draft at every year, it's the same thing. Every year it's like somewhere between 7 and 20. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, how come we're mediocre? Well, that's the middle of the first round. So that's kind of what you're gonna end up with. It can be frustrating because I want the Flyers to win. It's not that I don't want them to win. I've rooted for them since I started following them when '97. Back then, so I was like 10. And then of course I only got a couple years before Lindros was gone, and then I enjoyed the Ronick era and all that, and it was fun. We were always like in the mix. You know what I mean? And it just seems like now we're just happy if we just get into playoffs, and I'm worried that this era is just trying to do this, just going to get to that same point where we're scratching and clawing to get the 8th or the 7th seed, and we're going to go on a run. And it's like, can we just get the top guys at some point? Like, I watch a lot of hockey. You watch the McKinnons and the McDavids and the Dreisaitl's and the Kaprizovs and all those guys, and it's like it is fun to watch them. And even like you watch San Jose, they're terrible, but you watch Celebrini and Will Smith and Eklund and all, they're fun. They look like they're having fun. Like this Flyer, the Tortorella experience was a disaster because it's just like the development that you think you're getting is just everyone pulling back. It's more like what would you say? It's okay. We're playing a defensive system, block shots, and then rush off of that. It's not you're not offensively moving the needle for anyone like Bobby Brink or you see what Michkov can do if you let go of the rope a little bit. Like I just worry that some of the guys, like Forster, came in with, oh, he's got one heck of a shot. He's going to be able to score. He's a sniper, and then it's like, oh well, now everyone seems to just turn into, oh, he's really good, solid defensively. It's like, what? Okay, that's cool. I mean, I just don't want to be stuck in the same spot we've been stuck in. That's all.
Well, your name definitely describes that. I right when you went with the draft pick scenario, I'm like everything you've pretty much laid out there is a lot of purgatory, and you are right. We're the same age. Like I'm 37 as well. I started watching. My dad was taking me to games. I might have been Lindros's rookie year. It might have been right around that time. It's like 92 ish.
Yeah.
And you're right. I was a little kid. I don't really remember how they were the standings back then, but
Yeah.
throughout the mid 90s to basically 2011, 2014 ish.
Well, even 2012, they won 45 games. You know what I mean?
Right.
They won but that was with like Shen and
They were
and Simmons.
expected.
Yeah,
to
they weren't
make the
expected to
playoffs.
do anything. Yeah.
And like in the 90s, the Lindros era, the Legion of Doom era, and as you said, transitioning to like Primo and
Ronick and Amante and all those guys. Those are fun.
right. And then even the post lockout of 05 with the Richest Carter and whatnot, like
Yeah.
they had one bad year in like 06, 07, I believe it was. And they immediately turned things around. You mentioned like the original six. And the joke with the original six of the Flyers, if there was an original seven, the Flyers would be
they would be them, yeah.
And they've just the 70s, outside of when they first came into the league, a little dip in the early 90s, that 1 year in 06, 07, they have been premier top of the league.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that back up is because these last like 10 plus years, and I love Giroux, but that error, I would say from 2014 to pretty much when Fletcher got fired, I guess, was the worst stretch of Flyers hockey I've ever witnessed. I think any of us have ever witnessed. We've had some good players here and there, but part of the reason, because they had some talent, Hextall was a disaster. Fletcher was obviously a disaster. You had two different ideologies going each way. Hextall thought he had a plan, definitely picked the wrong players on one end, and on the other, and on the other end, the things he was doing in the behind the scenes in the front office with the alumni and things like that, absolute disaster. Fletcher, I just don't think he's a good GM. I never did. I look at what he did in Minnesota and his two biggest signings, something that we think that the owner made him do anyway.
I think that was universally hated. That was universally hated when he got the job.
Yeah, especially because the other guy who interviewed was Barry Zito, and he has already has a couple in Florida.
He's all right.
And they never seriously considered him because of the Bobby Clark connection to Fletcher's father. So that is what it is, and we have some, what I didn't like about that team, besides some of the team building, is who we did have here. Our locker room was a joke. Like and I was a big Voracek fan, and I went the other way real fast.
Yeah,
and it was not on ice. Well, sometimes it was. He would really be irritating. He played when he wanted to play. When he did, he was damn good. But he was very. I hated the culture of that. We can get into culture, but I hated the culture of that locker. It was a country club, and that term was used. They came to collect their paycheck. So not everybody. Giroux was a monster on the ice, but things weren't good behind the scenes. It's pretty well reported. It's not. I don't think anybody really argues that. For Tortorella, for me, it was never the guy that was going to come in here and they were going to start winning. That's not, in my opinion, that was not his job. It was we're going to bottom out like his first year here. I think last year confused the hell out of fans. I don't think they were expected to be anywhere near as good as that. The goaltending was there, at least early on. Farabee had a hot start. People were kind of like, oh, good. Coots is back kind of deal. Then it all went to shit. And that's obviously before Mishkov is even here. So I think that mess with people's expectations and kind of cost us a high draft pick, which we assumed if we're rebuilding, we'd have a pretty decently high draft pick. Yeah. I'm a tank guy. I was all about trading. I love Konechny, but I would have, at the time, I would have traded him. I would have traded him for a haul. If they were getting offered a haul, I would have traded everybody. I don't know about down to the studs, but pretty close. Like that. Close. That's the kind of guy I am, because I understand what you're saying. All the names you named outside of like Kaprizov were drafted in like the top 5. I mean, you look at all. There's so much.
Barkov and even like everybody says, well, Florida didn't really tank. Well, yeah, but they used Huberdeau, who was the second pick in the draft, and Uyghur to get Kachuk, which then changed just the vibe of the team.
And Barkov was third, I believe, in the draft.
Yeah, Barkov was third.
Vlad was one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a correlation, in my opinion, more towards those teams at least becoming competitive and being like Edmonton. They haven't won yet, but they're at the top of the league most years.
Yeah,
the best player in the world. Like, I'd rather be in the dance and have a chance than some people want to. Like, well, let's do the St. Louis thing where you catch lightning in a bottle, and even then,
Danny used that as an example, though.
I hate that.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god.
I'm like, the team was dead last in the league. They fired their coach and got a new goaltender. And then so that's not a way you build a team.
No.
And I remember when Danny had brought that up. That it was a little scary. I don't think they're going to do that, but it was a little scary.
Well,
so
look, they're hot again. Now they won 11 in a row. Now they're going to do it again.
Well, hey, I'll take it, because at one point we were worried about them dropping in the standings and taking our spot. Now that's Boston. I've never seen a team drop like that. Jesus.
Yeah, the Twins won in last time I've seen it, so that's good. I know I was worried about all of them.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we're in a little bit of a scenario right now. But so if I'm going to – so the whole Torts thing, I could care less about they're going to play defensively. That is how he is. I would rather them have to go through that and fix the locker room and the culture today and then unleash the team later. Because some guys, I do think you see it in Michkov's game, maybe we'll see how if he learns. We'll see if he learns to not just abandon the defense. Because perfect example, I was at the Washington game. We had 2 goals. The first goal of that game was a breakaway for him, and it was perfect because he was on covering the guy at the point. That guy pinched in, and the puck came out, and he just had nothing but daylight. It's exactly what you want to do.
He made the right read, and he went. Yeah.
So a couple games before that, against the Islanders, Coots blocks a shot, and Michkov immediately takes off ice past his man. And if the puck went too far away from Coots, you abandon your position, immediately leads to a goal. Now, there's no real point in getting into how long Torts benches guys, because that was a pet peeve of mine too. It was too long and unnecessary. But there was a reason I liked him with young players, and I never worried about Michkov being a guy to be like, I don't want to play for Torts. I don't want to play for Flyers anymore. He's such an alpha that they would just go at each other that I never worried about that. I do like that Torts was brought in to get rid of guys that shouldn't be here. I was never shouldn't say I was never the biggest Frost fan, but I dropped off that train pretty early, pretty quick.
I have realistic expectations of Frost. I never thought Frost was like, oh, he's a 1C, or I didn't even think really he could be a 2. He was a 27th pick in the draft. Like, he wasn't like it's like that's another thing that happens in Flyers land is it's like, oh, he's a first round pick. It's like, bro, listen, he was the 27th pick in the draft. Like that you don't get one season that far back in the draft unless you're touched by God. It's not like that's not a thing. It's like you just hope that he can be a solid 3C, or maybe if you're lucky you can get a 2C, but you're not really. That's too far back. But I feel like we put unrealistic expectations on some of these kids coming in, and then that goes against some of their development, because then you're saying, well, we expect you to be this, and it's like, well, that's not who that guy is. You know what I mean?
The one thing I'll say about that is I thought I assume his skill set would have meshed with some of the more talented players.
That's true.
And it really
I thought it was going to be great with Meach. I really did.
We were joking. Well, not really joking. We were kind of like, what do you do if he blows up with Michkov? Do you sign him long term? Do you give him big money? And it's so funny to think about that conversation now, because it's like he didn't even come close. I mean, this team is dying for centers, and they still moved them. I
see the Calgary fans on
they're pissed
on Twitter. But
the announcers were tearing into them.
Yeah, but even then, they still like 4x4. I'm like, well, we didn't even want to do that. It was just like by the time he left here, it was just like I was just done. Just enough of the up and down. And
maybe I'm old school. But not always, but like when a team went through what they went through, where they were getting beat by the Rangers at home, 9-1, 8-3. Their players are getting body slammed at center ice, and nobody's defending each other. Yeah, I wanted John Tortorella to come in and rip everybody a freaking new asshole. I did.
I get it.
I understand a lot of the players now aren't those players on that team then, but it's about establishing a culture. The thing with John, I think that a lot of it went to his head, or he's already got a massive head with what power he had and could wield, and that's where things went a little off track. I like that he was harsh with York. Things obviously went too far. I like that he finally got even a guy like Frost to walk into his office and be like, why aren't you playing me? In my opinion, it took Frost way too long for that, but I don't know. I'm not a former player. What do you want from me? Yeah. And Farabee's a guy. He's a different story. I really feel like the surgery.
It's just a surgery.
So it is what it is. So they're in a situation now. They've chosen not to. I'm glad that I said it in my last podcast. Like, we don't have to talk about Torts anymore. We can look towards the future now. Let's just go towards phase 2. So like I like where the team is now. I think they're all close as a whole. It's not cliquish like it was before. But groups here and groups there. I think as a team, they're really good.
Seem like
together.
They're all friends. Yeah, they seem like they're good.
Which is huge. I think Michkov can, once he understands the language a little bit better, could be a locker room leader, especially like on the ice, kind of like Giroux was. You have Konechny, you have Coots. It's tough to lose Lawton, but for that price, you kind of got to do it. And I'm sure more guys will come in and start to take over. Owen Tippett's struggling with it this year. He's admitted that. So and as he was my most disappointing Flyer of the year. It is what
Florida
it is.
Got, like everybody, I mean, I understand that Florida got rid of him for a reason. Like, or not read him, but they were willing to give him up for a reason. Like if you talk to Florida fans or whatever, he was not. He's hockey smart. I don't want to insult his intelligence or whatever, but he's not like on the ice. He's a blinders on guy. Like almost all of his goals are scored off the rush. He's not really good at like receiving passes or making passes. I mean, he can make an exciting pass, but then just whiff on 10 before he did that. Like he's right now he's just a one trick guy, and that hasn't changed since he's been here. It's the same guy. It's the same guy that he was. There's not like a lot of development in Tippett. I mean, if you give him a million shots, he's going to have seasons where he's going to put more in the net than others. But as part, like, when the playoffs start, that rush stuff, like a lot of the rush stuff, gets shrunk down. You don't get that many opportunities. So what is the hope for him? You know what I mean? That was always my concern when they gave him the contract. Cause I'm like, are we getting into a Farabee spot again where we're giving someone on what he's going to be and it's not really going to pan out? And then we just got this guy on the books for another 4 years who's can't play really in your top 6.
I think it's another 7. I'm not sure when the first year it kicked in, but it's 8-year deal for Tippett. That being said, he's a work in progress in the sense that those kind of goal scorers, especially the highlight reel goal scorers and the highlight reel players, you're going to have to take some time with them. Unfortunately, they're streaky. Goal scorers are going to be streaky anyway. So he's kind of like, I've seen other people clamoring for him to be moved. I think it's a little early at this time. I would like to see what you have because you pay a lot of money for goals. You do.
Yeah.
And maybe you're onto something in the playoffs. I hope we can get there and see what we have first and, kind of go from there. But trajectory, progression, it's never a straight line. Like it's like
a lot of the people. He's not as young as some of the guys that we're really hoping for. I mean, was he 27 now?
20. I think I was going to say 26. So it's in the range. He's already paid, so it's not like you have to worry about him breaking out. And
he's here. He's here.
So and he'll hold value just because he scores goals, unless he completely falls off a cliff. But I think a lot of people, especially on Twitter, I try to avoid Twitter as much as I can. But it's like they play too much NHL. And if their overall doesn't go up each year, it's a loss. Let's trade him. He's out.
No, it's never going to work. Like I love Andre, but I don't think he's had a great year. I don't think he's been great this year. He's had a couple nice stretches, but the last few games, it's not like Andre's been killing. I think Andre's a good player. I just think that this year has been kind of washed for him.
And like it's going to be one of those things. You have a coaching change now. Maybe things open up a little bit more. That's why this next coaching hire is going to be so huge. I just want to it's gonna, and I understand you may not like where the team is going. You're worried about falling into the purgatory, name drop, but I think we have to give them some time. It's gonna be peaks and valleys, and you don't want to be out on a guy. Like I remember early in the season, people were like, "God, you gotta trade Forrester." I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's been I
love Forrester,
it's just how people get it's wild. It's like I get it. We're impatient, but we're in that part where we're rebuilding, and I think because of how long it's taken and how bad things were before, frustration is setting in.
He's young. He's like 22. He's like only 22, 23, right?
I think it was a 2021 draft.
Yeah,
so like,
young.
And it was 2020 maybe. But he's he's also, again, he's a goal scorer as well. He could be like a Mark Stone because he does have the good defensive instincts. I want to see him play more in the top 6, more with guys like Mishkov and Konechny and whatnot. Not that I hate that line. Like him, Cates, and Brink have been great, but he's a guy that if he's not a top 6 player, then something went wrong.
Yeah.
But again, they're so young that you got to play it out. And there's going to be more valleys now than peaks. We're hoping for the peaks later. So it's just, people see where the team's going. Like I see this stuff. Everybody regressed. I'm like, really? Because that was like the best line on the team.
It's not everybody.
Cates, Brink, Forrester, Andre early in the season.
I'm about anti-Jamie as you can get. Yeah. I'm about anti-Jamie as you can get, and he's been better in the last.
And I was willing to give him this whole season because the way he was brought into the league wasn't all Anaheim's fault.
No,
although it was too.
They're a little better bit now, and they put Minyukov in his spot basically, and then.
But there was COVID. He couldn't play in juniors, so they kind of had to make a decision. Bring him to the NHL. He actually has a good point-wise seasons. His metrics were terrible, but point-wise, he did pretty good. But then it's like he was completely screwed after that. Then he started getting hurt, and his contract negotiation, same with Zegras, that was real rough with Anaheim. He was in a really bad spot. So he gets moved, and it was kind of like one of those things. The talent's there, 6th overall pick. And with his injuries and whatnot, I was like, I got to give him this season. And then next season, the one coming up, I really judge him. But I already feel like he's made huge strides towards being the player we need him to be, especially on the power play, which we suck at. So there's hope there. So I'll get off some of the individual players for a bit. I don't even want to get into goaltending because Reagan's the name.
He's the only hope right now.
So look, I brought up culture. I've said it several times. In your opinion, is that something that is real, or is it just it is real but it's overblown? Where do you feel with the whole locker room culture, team culture thing?
It's make believe. So it can be real, but a culture to me is set by great players. Like a coach will come and go. An average coach lifespan is 4 years, 3 years, something like that. But the culture is set by the McKinnons or the Barkovs and the Kachucks when he got the floor. When he got down there, cultures are set by good players. Superstars set the culture for the rest of the locker room. If the hardest working guy on the team is your superstar, then the rest of the team's got to follow suit. That's just how it works. That's how it works. That's why you don't hear great team like Vegas. Vegas has a terrible culture, and they went and got a cup, and they're still competitive every year because the guys they keep the stones in them demand it from their teammates. That's the culture that they have. Like the friend stuff and that's great if they are friends or whatever, but they have it's a job, and they all go in there like culture to me should be about we have a job to do and we go out there and do it. It's not more about like, oh, they went out to TGI Fridays together. I don't, that's cool. I mean, that's great, but you want them to know how important winning is. You need great players, and we haven't had a lot of them. So like Tortorella was the star of the team for the last few years to me. Like that he was just, but before Michkov got here, obviously, but he's the star of the team, and it's like that. I don't know if that works. Like I don't know because he's got a lifespan. So now he's gone. A lot of those players are gone. So you got 3 guys left, 4 guys left when you go to compete that were here for that culture build?
I agree with there's things I agree with, things I disagree with. So one of the things you said early on is like you want the players to come in and they're what the culture is going to be. And I do agree with that because I think of a guy like Chris Pronger. Like he was never going to let anybody not give it their all. However, one of the best players we've had here in quite some time was easily Claude Giroux. And I struggled with it then. I'm like, how could you watch him play on the ice and not follow suit? But they didn't. Even his old buddy Voracek would take games off. He would take shifts off. He's undermining the coach, making jokes and shit. Like, and he's not the only one. Like it was cliquish. It was there's on ice and there's a locker room, and I don't think they should be cliquish. Because then I just feel like you're not, you don't really hang out with that. Dougie Hamilton's a guy who hangs out by himself, but I still think he can be part of a culture. But that's not the way things were. And then you were right. This was John Tortorella was like, we didn't have a captain for a while. Yeah. And I remember saying at the time, like, well, is the guy. So until somebody takes it from him. And I do think it was right to give it to Coots based on the tenure.
Yeah, but then he benched him 2 weeks later.
Well, that's a real thing. It's what I didn't like about that real quick was you healthy scratched an injured player. That's what pisses me off. If you're going to catch him, just say he's hurt. Like, you could use the time off for Christ's sake, but that's Torts for you.
Yeah.
But I think that a guy like Torts can come in, get rid of some bad blood, lay the foundation, and then the players could step in. And I think a brain trust of Coots, because he is the de facto captain, but really Konechny and really Michkov. He just doesn't have the language yet to really do it. But you can't tell me look how this team has just can't come to him. He scores a goal in overtime, especially early in the season, and everybody's like passing him around like he's a rag doll. Like they really came together for this kid, and all he wants to do is win. And he's fighting guys bigger than him, and they're standing up for him. And they weren't perfect. There was a couple times where somebody the Hathaway hit but didn't stand up.
Well, he was putting himself in a lot of bad spots early in the season. He was just
he don't care. He doesn't care.
At some point the team's like, come on, dude, what are you doing?
He's scoring on guys and he's tapping the defenseman. I mean, that's like he's got a killer instinct. Like
he's got the dog in him. Yeah, and people will follow that. That's what I mean. He's just got here and people will follow him.
so what I liked about Torts is like people will definitely follow him. And I'm not saying these people are bad by any means, but I think you needed to get people out of the locker room that weren't just flat out weren't good enough and didn't have the dog in them at all. And
the
it could
D'Angelos.
it could be counterintuitive to a Michkov, and therefore you need to move on and want them out. So I do like Torts for that. I like that he had them thinking you still have, and he obviously goes overboard. He has a shelf life. We moved on, but he has them thinking you got to play defense and take care of your own first before you can, go off. And it's very easy to look at, oh, well, Torts is gone and they won 3 games. Outside of really Montreal, Nashville and Buffalo are horrific. I want to see it.
Buffalo's won every game in the last 6 besides us,
which is ridiculous, and it's great for the rebuild.
Yeah,
I was at that Buffalo game, and they didn't look good. The Flyers gave up some shots, but I haven't noticed that much of a change in their overall philosophy, except for I think if they do something on offense, they know they're not really going to get punished for it.
That's the thing. It's a freedom. It's a freedom off your.
But I also did.
I'm not going to get benched and have to talk about it after the game.
And I also didn't notice anybody abandon their defensive positionings either.
But that's the thing. The players weren't doing that at an alarming rate. That's why I would get mad at Torts. It's like, dude,
he would overdo it. He would overboard it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's too much.
And if you go to the game, you watch Michkov, especially early in the season.
He's a floater.
He was pretty bad with it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to go.
But all I want him to do is just rein it in a little bit. It's his rookie year. He looks great. And he's that superstar we're talking about. We just need to get the rest of the team around him, particularly at center. So that's kind of like the culture aspect of it. It's still a work in progress, but maybe now we're at that point where it's the players' time to step in. Was the foundation laid down enough for them to do that? We'll see. And if it's not, it is fake and it didn't work. And back to the drawing board.
Yeah, here we go again.
I have a good feeling, at least of the culture, because of the player that Michkov is. I don't think he'll ever become.
He's gonna set you with a high floor. We already know that. Like if he
won't accept losing.
You're gonna have a high floor. You're gonna be either, you with just Michkov, you're back into the Giroux years. You know what I mean? It's just
when he gets older, when he understands the league a little bit more, and he gets his man body and all those things, he's going to be even better. But I think he's going to start demanding more out of his teammates because he's going to want to win. Yeah. And that's fine with me, and that's what I want. So we'll see what happens with that. So that's really about culture. I don't know if anything's worth talking about York now. The only thing I'll say, and I said this on the show, is I thought he had this laissez-faire attitude, this West Coast crap. Look, he told Torts off
in the last year. He played so good.
It was great last year, and I think he realized that, and that's why he signed. Didn't go long term.
Yeah,
and I give him kudos for he got Torts fired, I guess, but I give him kudos for standing up for himself. I was worried he didn't give a crap, and he was just going to request a trade and be done with it, and he came in and
that's what Yandel said. Yandel said that on Spit and Chicklets. He said the same thing. He was just like, I would never expect it out of that guy. He was like, that's crazy that he's the one that stood up.
Shit all over him all you want, but Torts got it out of him, even if he had to fall on the sword. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that was Torts' plan. Is that
probably? I mean, probably, but like not to that degree.
Yeah.
And and
I don't even think that's what got him fired. I think it's more to Danny. I think it's
I think it was. And Danny said that it was a combination of things. And ultimately, I think after the deadline, he became more and more difficult to be with and work with. I don't think he liked the losing. I think he wanted to work towards winning, and we traded away players. Risto's been out, and frustration's mounting.
Equally, I think it probably aggravated Danny that he had rumors out there that he was going to trade Risto, and Torch is out there in the media saying, we're not trading Risto. Why would we ever trade Risto? The week after the deadline, he's hurt, and now he's got no value again. So then it's
and then he trades Lawton, who was probably one of his only pushing his message, and I think he felt he had more power than he did. I think he became more and more irritable to work with, and and the relationships with him and the players were starting to take some damage, and therefore the front office, because
he thought him and Danny were equal 100%. If not, he was a little bit above him. But because the first week that Danny was hired and they did the sit down interviews, Danny's talking about how we're going to start the rebuild. We're going to start the rebuild. Is it, and then Torch said this is not the first year to rebuild. The rebuild was started last year, so he's already kicked his timeline up a year.
There's undermining there, and as Jim said, he's going, oh well, yeah. Myself and Dan Hilferty and Keith Jones and Danny Briere, we have talked. It's like, why is Briere always last? What's going on there? Now, I don't know. It could be a coincidence, but I don't know.
Everyone besides Lawton was someone that had an issue with Torch that's been moved. Everyone.
And part of me doesn't bother me because I'll say this, and look, we've moved on, but I will say this. A lot of people would, always come to the defense of the players, and I did that for years. This team, and there's a lot of new players, but this team has killed coaches for like the last 12 years, and I can't do it again. And that's part of the reason why I gave Torts more of a chance than most. I can't just blame the coach. Just blame the coach every time. He's got a Stanley Cup, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Nobody on this team has done dick. And that's why I'm kind of like, and even when he wouldn't show up for like his interviews, and people be like, oh, well, accountability for thee, but not for me. I'm like, Torts doesn't owe you shit, first off. Secondly, he's probably going to say something that it's going to get him in trouble.
Well, that's a childish thing. Yeah, I can't talk, or I'm going to throw a temper tantrum and run away. Wrong. Yeah, come on.
You're not wrong, but he used to go out there and get himself in trouble. And it's like, well, if I just remove myself from, I would too, because it's great for a content creator. Oh my God, please. But it's just like, I understand it, especially if you're the front office. It's like, Jesus, we're gonna have to talk this guy off a ledge. Now, if we're like trying to win and he's doing that shit, different story. Story. But we're not there. So is it like wrong? Yeah, I guess. But like I'm not losing sleep over that. I care more about him whipping the players into shape, and then off he goes, and then the X's and O guy comes in, and then we're good to go. So, and obviously, overstay to say it is what it is, and I'm just excited about the future.
I'm happy he's going.
But I am definitely like, if Tocchet were to come in here, he wouldn't be my first pick. He definitely wouldn't be my first pick. But I don't. I do like these players a lot, but I don't hate that he's a hard-nosed coach. Like I will argue with his record why he's held in such high regard. With his record, it's very meh. So
I don't understand it. Yeah, he would be the last. Bottom of the barrel, like that would be that.
I would put these. I have Carl above him. I have I would even consider
Nelson,
University Bears coach,
Woodcroft,
Western Michigan's coach.
Western Michigan. That's the other one. Everybody's like, well, that was Jonesy's line. That's the one that they're saying is connected with his line mate. Yeah, he played in college with him, so I can see that. But the Tocchet one, it's not even. If people are like, oh, it's about being a former Flyer. No. Oh. Ovechkin
when he just tied it. Oh yeah, I just got an update. Yeah, and I accidentally clicked it, so I'm trying to grab a note. Yeah, there you go. I got my friends texting me now. Oh my God, we might have to turn that game on. I got the Phillies beating the Dodgers now.
Yeah, it just popped up back to back. It's like because it just popped up. Luzardo was killing it, and then the
bullpen was giving it back. But I think JT threw somebody out stealing.
Cool.
So some of the other coaches, real quick, because I didn't even get to bring them up. I think we named most of them. Yeah, Pat Felschweiler is the Western Michigan one that played with Jonesy. Todd Nelson.
Obviously, I don't know. I know Coach Alex Baum. That's about what I know about him.
And then the only other name I have is Mark Hunter, who is the London Knights coach. He's currently coaching Barkey and Vox.
Who's the other one? The one is assistant Savard.
Oh, yeah. I thought I heard that. And obviously Sullivan, but I don't think he's going to get fired.
No, they're not after they got – if the Torts would have made it to the end of the year, maybe. I don't think now. I don't think that's going to happen now. After the Elliott Freeman Torts has walked away, actually, no, he's been told to leave. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. So, I mean, yeah. So we'll get off of we always find our way back to Torts. It just is what it is. Pull up my notes here. So yeah, so that's culture. I mean, I don't know if we should talk about the talent too much. We're already like over a half hour here, so I want to go to Briere here, and what do you think of the job Briere has done so far?
So I was at the point where I was like getting just numb to the Flyers. It was just the same stuff over and over again. And then Briere was hired, and when he started talking about new era of Flyers, and we're gonna do it differently. We're gonna rebuild. And I was excited. Then they did the Provy trade. I thought that was great the way they did that. I was like, all right, they kept, remember everybody on Twitter was doing it. It was with what they thought they were trading Hayes and Sanheim and everybody. It
Oh,
was like it was going to be this huge trade. I was like, oh, that was cool. I was locked in all day with that.
first
So it
round
was,
pick. Yep.
yeah. And then the thing that really got me excited about Briere was the Michkov pick, because forever the Flyers would always take Leonard. They just would. It would just be Leonard because he was a Flyer guy. I mean, that guy is a Flyer. And then they didn't. They went a new direction. They went for the skill and all that. And I was like, this is different. Since then, almost everything he's done has been safe and has been high floor. Uh, and it's just not really inspiring. So, like, you look at, I think the Athletic had us at like 18th in prospect pool 2 years into 2 years. And after Michkov came up, that's,
However, he's got the assets to improve that number. I mean,
yeah.
3
Oh,
first
yeah,
round
he
picks,
does.
4 seconds. You can definitely, because I'll probably agree with you to an extent if you talked about Boyum and
That's right.
Luchenko,
Oh my
but
God.
with especially how good Boyum looks right now. And it's
And
a shame because his agent is the same agent as Cutter Gauthier, and that's like, did they do it because of that?
And I was a big Cutter. Like, listen, they pumped my tires up for a year over Cutter, so I was like literally paying to watch him at BC. You know what I mean? I was like, I watched all the World Junior stuff, so I was like all in on Cutter. And then they're like, you know what? He's out. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's that? What happened?
Do you know why though?
Well,
Or what's been
because
rumored and reported?
they didn't want to burn a year. They didn't want to burn a year. They didn't want to burn a year at ELC because their place wasn't, the culture was a mess. So they didn't want to bring him in. And then they're like, okay, we don't want you to come up, go back. And then he's like, this is not what we talked about. Danny knew what the deal was because he was an assistant for Fletcher. He knew.
They could have changed their mind. They could have changed things, but he wouldn't even talk to him. I'm sorry. I'm so out on Cutter. I mean, you got John LeClaire and Patrick Sharp flying out to meet you. You can't even give them the time of day.
He don't know Patrick Sharp from a can of paint.
He better, if he's a hockey guy, he better know who Patrick Sharp is.
He's looking at it like, if you go to if you have a job and your job says, hey man, at the end of the year, good news, we're giving you a promotion, you're going upstairs. And then at the end of the year, they're like, actually,
well, that was a different regime. That was a different. That was Fletcher.
Danny was here.
He was an assistant to the GM.
The pictures there had Danny and Cutter.
But come on, let's be real though. He's never stepped foot on NHL ice at the time. Everything he has done until then is just a interview. It's just a audition to play, and he's going to throw his weight around like that as a college kid. That's bullshit. That is bullshit.
All doing it. They're all doing it,
and I hate it. And it's a setting a precedent. And look at Kolosov.
Listen, if we're going to be the old bar, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Kolosov is playing the same shit.
But not for him.
And look how bad that looked because we had no leverage. He's gone.
All I know is right now it goes Hudson, Michkov, Celebrini, Cutter as rookie scoring right now.
Cutter's a one-trick pony. He's a one-trick pony. And
he's got more assists than goals. He's got like 22 assists, 15 goals.
You'll see. There's a lot of young talent out there, and with the Ducks, you'll see. You'll at the end of the day, you'll see. And then he's going to ask for a trade from Anaheim when things don't go his way. You'll see. I'll tell you. I don't want that piece of trash anywhere near us demanding.
I want talented players, and I know talented players.
My friend says that. He goes, "Well, I want a guy who scores." I get it.
Egos are going to happen. You don't think Michkov has an ego? He's not in Russia right now because of his ego. He didn't want to listen to the coach in Russia.
He was a good player. He demanded
he didn't want to listen to his coach either. And then
they didn't play him. They barely played him. He was playing 4 minutes and shit. Now, you know that they do in Russia. Anybody they know is going to the United States. They don't give him minutes.
Demidov is going to the NHL next year. He played his whole season with that team.
He's in the KHL, the MHL.
He's in the KHL. He's playing for SKA.
But how old is he, and how long has he been there? Like Michkov was how old?
It's the same year as what you call. It's the same year. It's draft +1. That's what I mean. Michkov has got an ego too. It's not like I love him. I love the kid.
But just because you have an ego, that doesn't mean like it's all the same. Like there's an ego for Michkov who demands. He wanted. We need. But geographically, the issues with Russia. Just get him here. Just get him here because they can screw us over, and then we're fucked out of a 7th seed. I told you, Carson.
Probably should have used that for Cutter, and he would have been here, and not Nana.
I mean, the Cutter stuff, I'll never get over because, And we don't even know if that's actually true, what was said. That's what we
It's
assume.
just,
And whether it was, there's another report that's saying the money they were going to give to Cutter went to Noah Cates or something like that. You could have worked things out.
That bonus
money. The bonus money. That's it. You're going to make millions throughout your whole career. You're worried about this money now.
Listen, that dude obviously has got an ego. I'm not saying that he's some saint or something.
Look, I'll agree with you. They all have egos. But getting Michkov to the United States as soon as possible, because what was going on with Russia and Ukraine and all that, was just get him here. We signed Fedotov to the deal we did to give his agent money to get Michkov here. It was. So I think we're talking about different things here, and because I do like that Michkov has the ego that he does, but it's more of all I want to do is win. Where Cutter comes off as all I want is what I want, and I want money. And I want to do what I want to do. And it's like,
we don't know.
Why would he tell us? He come out and tell us. Like, what is he? He's going to look like an asshole. He's going to look like an asshole.
Nothing that kid could have told us that would have made us feel any better about him being traded away. Nothing.
Why wouldn't you still tell us?
And if he would have dogged the Flyers, everybody would have been killing him for dogging the Flyers. Oh, well, who are you to dog the Flyers?
At least tell us. At least tell us. And you're right. You're probably right. But you still got to tell us. Now they're running rampant with ideas. He won't tell us because he knows it'll make him look even worse. He'll just admit.
Who do you think? I know Cutter looked bad, but I'm telling you right now, I've never seen a campaign like that against any kid. Rutger McGroarty did the same exact thing at Winnipeg. There was like one story about Rutger McGroarty.
Well, they did chant. Where's what the fuck?
Where's Rutger?
First name? Yeah, where's Rutger? Yeah, thank you. Where's Rutger?
But there was like one story on it.
But understand. Winnipeg was in a much better place. The Flyers are coming out of the Dave Scott, Chuck Fletcher era, where everything was as bad as it could get. They did not need any more bad publicity.
Full court press, though. That was pretty wild.
I was at the front of that court. I loved every second of it. I can't help it. Like, I look at Philly.
You don't want to be a Flyer.
He's sitting there wearing his. But in other people,
I was like, that's how you know Jones has been in Philly radio for a very long time, because he said, "Listen, tell him that he didn't want to be a Flyer, and everybody will be on our side. Don't worry about it."
It just blows my mind. How could somebody sit there at the draft and say, "I was born to be a Flyer," and this first time something doesn't go their way, they need to be traded. They need to be traded. Like, come on. And he says his favorite player is Sidney Crosby. Well, it shows. He's a friggin' pussy.
He's got no Crosby in his game, neither no former Flyer.
Look, he may be a fine player.
He's a good player. I've watched a lot of.
When he was playing with Team America in juniors, it was like fantastic.
Dude, he went that whole tournament and said, they kept saying he's just a goal scorer, and all he did was assist the whole tournament. It was wild.
He's wild. But then he's making comments. I forget, was it college? He's like,
well, that's where he screwed up.
We're going to be great. I'm going to score a couple. Then they get eliminated. He didn't do anything. So, like, look, I understand guys want to say we're going to win the game and all that shit. I get it.
Yeah, it was a little tough.
And I had no idea we were going to get in the Cutter, but this is one thing I'm very passionate about. And at the end of the day, maybe this whole time Cutter's been holding back and the Flyers completely treated him like shit. Doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe that's the case. I'll eat crow all day long. But until I know, and until the way it looks, I got Danny Briere, Keith Jones, John LeClaire, Patrick Sharp, Danny Heatley. These guys have all played in the NHL. All of them are damn good players. They've proven themselves. You got a guy who is a quick riser in the draft. He's looked good against younger competition. We gave you a 5th-round pick. You're going to get freaking paid. And you can't give us the time of day. You can't just have a meeting. We flew all the way out there to see you. I'll never get over that, no matter what the reason. That is bullshit. That is grade A bullshit. And that only a sissy would do that. He's surrounded by people telling him he's the best. He's the best. I got to do what's best for my career. What, you have to make a couple extra bucks early in your career only to get paid boatloads later?
But you get paid a year earlier. You get paid a year. If you come,
they would have taken care of him. They'd have found. Maybe they did, and they couldn't even tell him because he cut off all communications. The agent was an asshole as well. We'll never know.
They didn't keep their word, and he said kick rocks.
Allegedly. Allegedly. We don't know what their word was. We don't. We have no idea. We're just trying to connect the dots.
Yeah.
But I really don't know. In either way, so let's say things change, like our regime changed, like there's a new person in charge. But what I understand is they were going to burn a year of his ELC, but they said we'll bring you to camp. You have to earn it, and that's what sent him off.
Well, they couldn't have. If you brought him to camp, then that's not burning a year. You would have burned a year before.
No. He would have to. He would be in camp to make the team. You would have to earn it to make the team. and he didn't want to do that. So like it's why you don't want to compete to make the team?
No, I think he wanted to come at the end of the last when Fletcher got fired. He wanted to come the last 5 games for that, 3 games of that.
Well, you need
burn
8
a year
games. You need 8 games to burn a year.
No, well, not if it's at the end of the season. They just burn. Well, they just burn it. Like Lane,
what's his name?
Lane did it last year. Lane came at the end
so,
of the year.
If that's the case, maybe. But from what I had heard at the time, was going into next season. This is only 8. You're going to blow it over 8 games. Like he's going to get paid. So, like, I mean, Cutter's going to be upset that like, oh, I lost a year of my ELC. Every team in the league basically tries to protect their ELC.
But you look at the end of this year, you had like Leonard, Perot, all those guys that at the end of the year they bring them up because and then
Washington's going for a cut. Like I understand.
Well, no, I'm saying a lot of teams, like even
they'll do it if
Cutter
it makes
did it for one game.
Sense.
They burned a year of his ELC for one game in Anaheim.
Organizationally, I think that's stupid because now you're going to be out money. Now the what you call is going up, the cap's going up, but like, is it really that big of a deal? It shouldn't be. You've done nothing in the NHL. We're not winning, and from what I understood, is he's going to camp that offseason, and it was going to be we expect you to earn it. You're that good, but you still got to earn it.
He didn't even come though, right?
Yeah, he was already like out.
He was already. He wasn't even accepting phone calls.
They were saying and it was because he skipped depth camp. Like that was the thing. I remember
that's when all the rumors started going around. But that's why I said it happened.
I stood up for him like an asshole. I stood up for him like, no, it could be this, it could be that.
I had a buddy at work. He was telling me, he was like, he's not happy. I was like, he's fine, don't worry about it. And then
I mean, look, it is what it is. Look, it's probably a little bit of everything. I feel like organizationally, you're in charge. It's your team. You got to watch the finances and whatnot.
The Kolosov thing is the thing that drives me nuts. So like,
I've always talked about that.
If we're gonna rail on Cutter for what he did, Kolosov just chilling for the last 2 weeks in an apartment up in Philly for some reason and not actually doing anything.
He's supposed to play. I heard that had to do with Torts him being called back up.
He's not practicing. He's not playing. He's not doing anything. He's just hanging out. Meanwhile, Lehigh, like you're supposed to be developing.
But he's too good. He's too good for Lehigh. That's what he said.
That's what I mean. You can't. It's not good for.
I don't like Kolosov, the inmates running the asylum, and I've said that. I was not a fan of that.
I was a big Kolosov guy. I was too. So it's like,
and I was like, I get that he's a talent, and I get it looks bad because of what just happened with Cutter, but you can't bend to their will. You can't do it. You're in charge. You're the GM. These guys who have never stepped foot in the NHL ice cannot tell you what's going to happen. That's bullshit. It fits for Cutter and it fits for Kolosov. So, I mean, look, he may have to eat crow with the whole Cutter thing at the end of the day. Hopefully Drysdale works out. But at the end, the GM is in charge, not the players who've never even played on the team yet.
That's how
that's where for both players, that's where I come to that. So I can, and I understand your frustration with Danny in that regards. You lost Cutter. Maybe he backpedaled a little bit because of that with Kolosov, but I think he should have doubled down and be like, no, you either play in the AHL or go the hell back to Russia.
Or just go chill in Belarus.
And it sets a precedent that I don't want. That's why I was okay with how it went down. So like Cutter's tough because we'll never really know.
We'll never know.
Ultimately went down.
No.
He could tell us. He could clear it up. What we're arguing about. He
would get no points for telling us anything.
You would understand though. You would understand a little bit.
If Danny was gone,
what if he came out? What if he came out and just said, "Look, I was told by the guy who drafted me that I was going to play here. They were going to burn a year of my ELC." And I was looking forward to that. I wanted to play this, that, the other thing. I was excited. New regime turnover. And they told me that they weren't going to burn that. And this money was going to go to the Cates. And then I was going to have to earn my spot. And if he came out and said that, I would be like, that's not that big of a deal. I'm okay, big deal. That you had to demand a trade because of that. You're nothing, at least at the time. You're all potential. You're all potential. Because if the GMs rather give into that kind of stuff, you're setting a precedent, and it's not good. And like you said, they're all doing it now. Well, they got to.
That's the thing. The point is like if you're willing to give in now, you should have done that. You should have done it last time. Like we would have had a top 5 pick and not a third string goalie chilling in an apartment.
I think they should push back and tell them, no, you earn your spot. That's how it works here. We don't hand out spots.
You pick your
There is
battles.
a little bit to that. Like if Mishkov ultimately got like that, that's a different conversation.
Well, yeah, we're
I'm kind of
gonna.
like,
Yeah, we'll carry your sticks in the
but
airport. We got you.
also I've seen him play with the Flyers, so it's a different conversation too. Although
Yes.
it's kind of what I expected. So somehow we got into Cutter Gauthier. Holy shit!
Yeah.
So I'll look. Let's end on this last one, okay?
All right.
We are where we are. You have your concerns, understandably so. What can Danny Briere do today to bring you back from the brink?
He has to be like the thing you want to see is obviously this is the biggest offseason we had in a decade, easily, right? Like because you have the
Coming up,
picks,
man.
you have some cash. I know you have more of the cash in 26, 27, but you have a good chunk of cash this year. You don't want to be Detroit. You don't want to be Nashville. You don't want to spend like all we're doing is spending money and acquiring people that the other teams don't want. You don't want to do that. You have to be creative. It has to be something creative. Like if he can find a way to pull McTavish away from Anaheim, where he gives up some of those extra picks, first round picks he has, or a Velarde, or or he somehow weasels a way to get Harley out of that. Like you need top end talent, and that was what he said in the very beginning. Top end talent is what makes championship teams. Agreed, Danny. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, where you turned into Jet Luchenko is a great guy. He's a great kid. I wish the best for him, and I want him to be great. But the national perception of Jet is not a top end talent. It's a good, solid player. We still need a lot of those guys. So this offseason is huge because I just want to see them like be creative. You got to be creative. You got to be able if and more than anything, stop splitting the fan base up. Pick a direction. Like if you're going to go. Like if you're doing this half measure stuff where we're going to compete and try hard and we'll see where we land. Okay, cool. Then go. You have all the assets in the world to get who you need to do to compete. You want to compete? Go to the playoffs. That's what you want to do. If you want to try to acquire top end talent through the draft, then you know what you got to do. You got to go all full tank mode. You're not going to get them with the 10th pick in the draft or the 12th pick in the draft unless you're lucky. Pick a direction. Like you seem like you do it. You go one way, you go one way, you go one way, and then you take a step back. So just go
I
one
think
way or the other.
we're somewhat in lockstep with that. I pushed for it last year a little bit. Maybe I was a year early, I guess. Doesn't seem like they were ever going to bottom out. I think the whole compete thing is at the end of the day. No, the players, and we all know this. The players aren't going to lose on purpose. It just
no. That drives me nuts.
I think that's just team speak when he says that stuff.
Yeah.
So based on body language and what he had said, this is the only year you're going to have 3 first round picks and 4 second round picks, most of which are high.
I think they got one extra pick. I think they got one extra pick the 2027, the first rounder from Toronto. Other than that, it's just your picks. That's it. You got no extra picks after this year.
Yeah, right. So this is the year, and even then, he kind of alluded to adding like a player at the deadline with that 2027 pick, meaning they expect to be good that year. So that tells me you're not going to put that all together in one year. Next year, you got to do something this year. So it sounds like Elliot Friedman has said this as well. If anybody's going to be aggressive on the offer sheet market, it's going to be Philly. So
I think it's going to be more the threat of it, like you said the other day. It's going to be the threat of it because
why not just make a trade if that's the case? Why do you have to?
That's what I mean. And if you can say, if you can call, I know Dallas is getting close to where it's strapped. If you can call them and say, "I'll give you all 3 of those extra firsts for Thomas Harley," I'll do it in a second.
Right.
That kid that guy's
Harley
a star.
Or even not. I agree. Harley's definitely. We have a fantasy league, and I had him.
He's awesome.
I had to, based on how it's broken up, I had to let him go. I couldn't retain him, and of course he just goes off. Yeah. But Maverick Bork seems like another guy that they're interested in. You brought
I said that
Mason
in the chat.
McTavish.
Maybe if you maybe if you did want to trade RFA for RFA, maybe you do like a York, and then you say, hey, Maverick Bork, you guys not keeping him or whatever. Maybe that's something you can figure out. That I don't know who would have to pay extra to make that work. Something like that, like to try to get creative. That's all I'm saying is that you got to be able to.
However you do it, Danny, just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you need centers because
Rossi could, for whatever reason,
Rossi's smaller. So it's like Rossi. I love Rossi, but he's smaller. So you can't have a line of TK, Michkov, and Rossi.
Right. Well, I agree with that, but at this point, just get a center.
Get any center.
Yeah, just get a center. Yeah, figure out the rest, because you're right. They have Keith Jones specifically has talked about not just the defense, but the team getting bigger.
But
but you still need the talent as well. It's not like that perfect guy is going to be out there. Ryan Getzloff in his prime.
Yeah. Where's he
So
at?
yeah, so they're going to have to take what they can get. So we'll see who they target. We'll see what they come up with. I fully expect, whether it be an offer sheet or a trade, some kind of, I don't want to say big name because these guys are probably going to be young, but like a name that, like all these names have been thrown around, like one of them, and particularly at the center position. And
it's like they were like Florida did. They got Bennett. Bennett was like, he was good, but no one really thought. I mean, he wasn't like what he is now. Same thing with Reinhardt. Reinhardt was really good, but he wasn't thought of the way he is now. Like, you have to get these guys before they blow up and become the stars that they are. You know what I mean? That's what he's got to do this offseason, figure out who those guys are.
So theoretically, the draft comes. Well, they can make a trade with those picks. They're not going to trade their own. But let's say the draft comes and they make all their picks. Maybe with some of the second round picks, they move up a couple of spots, or maybe they package 2 seconds, move into the first. They get another like 4 guys in the first round. Yeah, but my point is, they do all their drafting, and then they do get one either offer sheet or trade, and they bring in a name like a Maverick Bork or a Mason McTavish, something like that. And then that's all they do, really. Maybe I don't see them doing much in free agency.
I don't think they're going to do anything in goal. They both of them are under contract.
Maybe
that's going to pretty much limit how good
have a termination with Fedotov. Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe Fedotov said he's going to be going. He'd probably
right. I would assume, like, especially the way things have gone. Maybe Alex Lyon 2-year deal, so there's some stability.
Yeah,
like something like that. Would you be okay with that going into next season? Still highlighting the 2026 offseason, but being like, okay, Danny, you did a lot of rebuilding stuff. You grabbed assets. You've now stockpiled our prospect pool. We've grabbed some centers, and then you went out and got a somewhat established young center to grow with this team. And on top of that, hires a coach that you're okay with. If he gets a coach, he doesn't be perfect. Yeah. But he gets he doesn't look at David Carl. I'm sure you'll change your tune a little bit.
Oh, well, I like David Carl. I like
who's your number one? Who's your number one?
David Carl. I'd rather give it to David Carl and say, build us the way you built Denver, or the way what you've done there.
So
that's a culture build.
So how about this? Say they grab one of your top 3 or 4 coaches, right?
Yeah.
They do everything else I said with the drafting, stockpiling the prospect pool, legitimate prospects, and then go get like one of Mason McTavish or somebody like Marco Rossi, whatever.
Velarde's probably
Velarde is another one, like somebody like that, and then maybe Alex Lyon 2-year deal, whatever. Going into so then you are going to be like, okay, Danny, you've rebuilt my trust a little bit. It's definitely not a job finished, but I'm back on the we could do this train. And
don't draft Roger McQueen, and don't do that. I'm not doing no back injuries. No, I'm not doing that. And,
I hear that.
And then take a shot with one of the other picks, and then I get it, like the Ryabkin. I know he's falling.
Will you drop Purgatory if he does that?
Yeah, I'll be Flyers hopeful. I
was going to say something with hope. I'm going to hold you to that. All right, I'm going to hold you to that.
So, I've changed the name a couple times. It used to be like something about Michkov. Michkov will save us or something like that.
Commenting on our show with a different name?
Yeah, that's why I've been watching you guys for a couple of years now. So, but it's like,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I would have like Michkov will save us or something like that, or something like a different name.
I got to look back, man. Every now and then, because I always like to check how I sound and whatnot. So I've said the F word twice now. I warned you.
I've said it
twice.
If I would have told my wife I didn't curse, he would have thought
maybe Jimmy can bleep it because it's not live. So anyway, so that sounds good. We have something there coming up on an hour. I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Yeah. Did not expect the Cutter talk. I could do a whole show on Cutter. I was a little rusty. I had I was like, why am I'm missing something? And it was we got into it.
I was heavily invested in him. I was heavily invested in that guy.
I was too. I was just about to get right back into it. Like I remember a time we were talking about him playing center. I don't want to get back into it. I'm sorry, because I'll be going again. So let's go see what if Ovechkin breaks the record tonight. Flyers Purgatory. Eric, if I could say that. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it, loyal listener. I really appreciate it. Glad we got to talk. Great conversation. And who knows? Maybe if you things don't go your way, Danny makes some mistakes, we can do it again sometime. So keep commenting, keep watching, and hey, maybe we'll do this again. All right. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
All right. Until next time, catch Jimmy and I probably whenever the Flyers play between Monday and Wednesday of next week. We'll see where we're at. We'll see what's going on. And with that, good night.